Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the Inclusive Learning Environment Show, where we now have a session focusing on modern methods of construction and their specific application in inclusive learning environments. My name is Mark Brown from Teachscapes, and we provide modular timber frame buildings throughout the education sector. And you've probably heard the term MMC before, but for those that haven't, modern methods of construction describes a process which focuses on off-site construction techniques such as mass production and factory assembly as alternatives to traditional building. And this approach arguably provides benefits by speeding up delivery, reducing labour costs, eliminating unnecessary waste and improving quality. Now, broadly speaking, there are two main approaches. With a volumetric solution, in the first instance, you'll see a whole complete unit craned into place and then these units connected on site. Secondly, there's a systematic modular approach where component parts are manufactured off-site and then brought to site for rapid construction. And at Teachscapes, we provide timber frame modular system, and the projects we'll hear about today from Reds 10, HLM Architects and Modulec follow the volumetric approach. And in both cases, you'll end up with a permanent building with a 50-year lifespan. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first speakers. If you have any questions for our speakers, then pop them in the question box and I'll put them to the panel at the end. So first up, we have Michael Ruddick, who's Commercial Director at Reds 10, and Russell Whitby, an Associate at HLM Architects. And they're going to be talking to us this afternoon about a new expansion project at Addington SEN School in Wokingham. So Michael and Russell, welcome, and over to you.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you very much, Mark. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for the introduction. We're here today to talk about a project delivering partnership with Wokingham, Reds 10 and HLM for a collaborative off-site post-16 building. We're going to introduce you to some aspects of the MMC world and an insight into the design process, and also to show why MMC is suited to SEN schools and complex existing school sites. Obviously, that's me, Russell Whitby, an associate at HLM Architects. I've been in the industry for 20 odd years. I'm looking forward to speaking today.
And I'm Michael Ruddick, Commercial Director at Reds 10. We're volumetric off-site contractors. Okay, so first up, we've got, I thought it best to give a bit of background on the project. As Russell touched on there, it's around Addington SEN School in Wokingham. The decision was taken by Wokingham Borough Council to appoint an off-site specialist modular contractor rather than going down the traditional design route. We feel this strategy gave them early cost certainty and it considerably reduced the time on site, whilst allowing more time for design engagement with the school and minimum disturbance for the pupils due to sort of increased speed of delivery of the project. The project showcases HLM's digital consultation in the design process and Reds 10's off-site manufacture and assembly. Okay, so the key driver for the project was that Wokingham Borough Council, they needed additional space at Addington SEN School. They needed to increase capacity by circa 50 students and create a sixth form for them. That's what was the requirement for the new build. We were appointed early on at REBA Stage 1, which is I'll talk about a bit later on, but that's important to get early engagement. To maximise the benefits of modular. Yeah, so in summary, the brief was it's 1,000 metre squared single story steel framed volumetric, including specialist SEN teaching spaces for PMLD, hygiene rooms, food tech, life skills, classrooms, a cafe and breakout areas. We also included enhanced carbon reduction features in the design, and that's all part of Wokingham Borough Council and our own and HLM's goal of becoming carbon neutral by 2030.
One of the key drivers was to have a really great team and an open-minded client, really. and wanted to develop a modular approach, and they didn't have any preconceived ideas about modular construction and historical perception and any of its constraints, which is good. This is what we believe in as well. And it was a collaborative approach by all parties involved, and obviously we had an expert in offsite construction and school delivery with Reds Tem.
Yeah, so the next slide here just outlines the benefits of modular. These benefits increase with early engagement. You get a better quality of building as it's designed as modular from the outset. So you're not taking an existing traditional design and trying to make it work as modular. By getting us involved at that early stage one, you're setting out the grids for a modular building right away. So you get all the benefits of that. It's more affordable. You know, these buildings come in cheaper than your standard traditional builds. What we find is because we've got reduced on-site time of up to sort of 50%, you've got lower prelims and improved sort of productivity within a factory environment when we're constructing the building. Yes, and faster. It's, you know, we did this project. We estimate it was 50% quicker than if we'd done it traditionally. Obviously, this was a key consideration for the school, given it's a live school environment. And I've got pupils around. They wanted to minimise our time on site, so it was a big win theme for them. And also, it's a more sustainable way of building. Obviously, the materials we use, we're trying to reduce our embodied carbon as far as possible. Obviously, there's the whole construction traffic element as well. Because we've got a PMV value of 80%, there's much less deliveries and construction traffic movements to and from site because it's done in our factory controlled environment. So there's that impact too. And also you've got the end of use recycling with our modular builds. Obviously the steel frames are reusable and recyclable at end of life. Yeah, and just this diagram here just shows you, sort of gives an overview of the different types of construction and the program related savings with going down the offsite modular route. So you can see there with the traditional build, it's sequential, that you can't start the superstructure works until the substructure is finished, and then obviously the cladding and fit out and so on all needs to follow each other in a sequential manner. I think 2D panelized, you do have some factory manufacture which you can overlap with substructure works to help speed that up. But with our system and the last one there, you got your 3D volumetric, which is whilst you're doing your substructure, you're constructing the building in its entirety. So as soon as those foundations are in, you're dropping a building that's 80% complete. So you're overlapping a lot of those trades and those various works items to minimize your time on site. And this just gives you a bit of a detail on our Reds Tem modular system. As we touched on, we're sort of a 3D volumetric build. So that's, you can see there these frames. This is essentially how our frames come together. We've got hot rolled steel carcasses with cold rolled joists for the floors and the ceilings, and there's timber and concrete floor options. And then I thought it was good to show a slide here just showing that there are a range of finishes available. Currently we're delivering a number of projects. Some have got brick slip finish like Addington did, but Addington had a mixture of timber clad and brick slip. We're doing Trespa, micro rib cladding. I don't think there's any limitations on what finishes you can have externally on a modular building. Certainly with our system, we're using all manner of finishes to suit the client and planning requirements and needs.
Right. One of the other critical elements and sort of overlooked by, I think, some other practices and other elements is a key driver is getting to know the school. We spent a lot of time getting to know the school. Now, the school is based in Woodley and Wokingham, as I said. It's an Ofsted rated outstanding special school that covers a lot of disability ranges. Won't go from all, but SPLD, VI, SLNCN, PMLD, MLD, SLD. So quite a lot. The school was about a 200 intake. Now, due to our sort of standalone extension, it's expanded it to 255. And we developed an approach how to analyse and where best the expansion could be. The scores for professional and gives the pupils the best all through, and care decided along a sixth form which would be best served alone in a standalone unit with a PMLD. Like I said, spent a lot of time, and key is the engagement process, which we'll talk about a little bit later as well. We'll talk about design a little bit here, and how it developed with modular in mind and not being strict in layouts. And HLM has a think off-site first approach to a lot of its designs. Our commitment is consider how each project could be delivered using off-site manufacturer and a primary delivery approach on every project. As you can see, some early sketch developments here, not a constrained design at all, allowing for all types of different teaching activities. The design was to create something which felt familiar to the main school. We're providing something different, which could be identified as new, as theirs, as ours, something different, you know, same but different sort of design analysis, and something for them to be proud of. Quick analysis of how the design develops and how we sort of develop it in that sort of bay and grid arrangement. You can see it's sketched into a layout for planning and then into a bay arrangement for production in factory, and you can see that nothing was compromised on here. Next, I'm going to take you through a few photos which are sort of key to producing, key to the environment that we're trying to go after here. But here's like the approach, then a large canopy which links the play spaces, just meeting the needs, you know, large expansive spans of glass which meet the sort of vocational subjects inside. Here's a photo from the other side, looking out onto the main school, so giving them a sort of sense of presence on the corner and connecting everything. And this is a sort of tech life skills area where they're learning to upskill certain elements, bikes, furniture, full sort of little mini lab for them. Another key aspect is a large adaptable double height hall which is developed off site, which is sort of a really key space, you know, clear, tall, multi-adaptable. A couple of shots here shooting both ways. They used it for overspill and dining, music shows, and a great sort of teaching space, soft finishes in there, and all the acoustics work, and it all links throughout. Modern learning environments, you know, it has to be adaptable to all different things, and as you can see, large spans, lots of colour, lots of glazing, links through to everywhere, so passive supervision and theming their own sort of identity to each classroom. On the elements, they wanted a highly serviced bakery and cooking element and a modern kitchen, not just to teach life skills, but also to learn to bake different things. We had some different adjustable cookers and hobs around there. And all of this was obviously serviced in the factory and delivered. So, you know, highly serviced can be achieved. Also, roof lights, large span spaces. This links through to the hall. This is the entrance space. There's a cafe in the back there, you know, creating these big, you know, this is the sixth form hub that we call it. You come in and then you sort of introduce everyone here, but that light panel there isn't a light, it's the actual roof light, kicking in natural light.
Russell, is it worth mentioning there? This is one of the things with early engagement. We knew the school wanted a huge roof light in this big open common area. You know, because we designed it from modular from the outset, we were able to orientate the bays in that we could get that all within one bay. So that early engagement of getting a modular contractor on board makes this achievable. Yeah,
good point. Take a collaborative approach. So how did we get there? So I showed you the how did we get there. It was intensive and collaborative stakeholder engagement, getting buy-in, like I said, is a key to the success really. And one of the ways we did it is we took everything with us whenever we went. So this is from my iPad, just recorded one day, and we can go around, we can fly around the model, we can change things, we can colour wards, and we took a bit of time to develop sort of a colour palette with them that linked in with the school and what they wanted. So everything was themed around progression and, you know, belonging really. But it was always key, obviously. Pre-COVID, you took it for granted. Now we've got access to everything at us, but obviously when you go to these engagements, it is key to have access to all the correct sort of digital tools that we've got available to us, really.
Okay, yeah, so everyone on board, we feel as part of any project team, it's important to involve the client and all the stakeholders from the outset. make everyone really feel like they're on the journey from the beginning. For us, we like to, well, previously obviously meet up, but then we like to involve factory visits to review progress. So as you can see here, the photo there is that's the building behind everyone in the picture there. We got the school trust and the school and the council, plus the design team, all to come and visit the building whilst it's under manufacture in our factory. So they can come and look in the spaces, look and feel them. It was an important part of the collaborative approach, and something they all really enjoyed. It's something I recommend and try and do on every project. Just everyone feels part of the team the whole way through the journey. And here we have some other photos of how the building comes into position. You can see there on the top left, this is how the modules arrive with all the external windows and doors in. This particular scheme, it's got the breather membrane there, and then on the top right you can just see it sort of being craned in position. And the bottom pictures there are just sort of different stages of the manufacturing process in our factory with the volumetric frames. This is sort of what they look like once they're erected, and we begin to insulate them and build external walls.
Yeah, and it's obviously got some safe working bubbles of smaller movements on site, isn't it? So it's a lot sort of COVID friendly going forward as well. Meeting the needs, just some more photos of how it sort of fits in. So during also for the product, we had a lot of external works. So we had a new Muga that we had to install first to allow us to build the sixth forms there. So there's a lot of external works we had to integrate in, and it just sits in and fits in so well with the rest of the school, and feedback has been great. Really couldn't be proud of it for the sort of progression we've made throughout all of it. There's some SEN space, there's some play spaces that we were installed, and then we got some great sort of social spaces as well. Flexible dining, there's the hall being used. Here's the fit out of that large span space with all the furniture in, sort of set up in its cafe mode. So we installed a cafe for them there to top left, which is real work environment that they loved. Had coffee machine in, and you can come and sit down in this space. And then you can see a central located teaching space, as teacher's sort of office, so everything's sort of passively supervised, which is fantastic. And then you can see down the corridors there, which were some teaching spaces off there. Is yet to be fit up, but we had some life skill spaces, the hairdressing, and day to day. And another thing they were keen for, which they were very keen that we listened on how the care for each student was undertaken. So the shower trolleys and how they moved throughout the building, where they stayed, adjustable toilets, sinks, having some mirrors in the hygiene rooms, and then having some coloured panels throughout, which are in the ceiling there as well, not turned on, but there's roof lights in there in the toilets as well, because they were keen that this is also a key environment for a lot of the pupils within them, that they get access and views. They're not just stuck in a black box really. And some of the other fun spaces, the sensory play that can be inbuilt and installed fully. So wide range of complex needs on this one that we tried to do. This one here is delivering more on the standard, so more than just a building. So this is the advanced net zero, which you talked about briefly.
Yeah, this is something we're working towards as a company, and it sort of outlines what we're doing at the moment to reduce our embodied carbon, but also not only our operational carbon to get to net zero, but our embodied carbon as well. Us as a company, ResTen, we've made a commitment to integrate as much smart technology and achieve sort of carbon neutral buildings at no additional cost to the client, so through smart design. So that's designing in the air source heat pumps, getting rid of gas early on, putting PVs on the roof, all those sort of things. We're progressing that as far as we can to achieve these net zero buildings at no extra cost. And the second one, yeah, we're looking at how we can improve the user experience for the clients. You know, we've installed smart controls in the building, which is an enhancement to standard BMS and allows remote monitoring controls within the, well, it's got the overall aim of reducing the operational energy use and reduce carbon. These smart controls give they give real life data remotely as well on how the mechanical and electrical controls are working, if any plant isn't operating as it should or out of hours, so it can be addressed so there's no additional sort of energy usage. Therefore, you know, ultimately with the goal of reducing the operational carbon of the school.
Thoughtful design to make better places. Really is an introduction into the film they did for Addington. So just showing all the processes we talked about there. It's a short video that will bring to the end of mine and Michael's presentation. So, and then we'll do Q&A at the end. So this should work. He says.
Our greatest ambition is to create education environments that inspire their users. We want to help to nurture individuals and provide the backdrop to lifelong learning experiences. That means our work needs to go far beyond just design excellence and constructive collaboration. It's about understanding how the enduring impact and sustainability of a building depends upon the processes employed, the partnerships built throughout, and the desire to push forward the boundaries. It's understanding that better choices in design and construction lead to better futures for the people we serve.
Special needs is on the rise in the country nationally, and at the last admissions panel we had about 50 requests for about 3 places. So we've decided to erect a new sixth form on the field in order to free up space in the main school. We've worked alongside HLM Architects and REDS 10 really closely. The key thing is they've listened to our requirements regarding our disability access, which has been great.
Regular meetings with the school and Wokingham Borough Council using HLM's modern digital briefing tools help to define and craft the best flexible teaching space that caters to the school's needs. With an emphasis on sustainability and the physical and mental well-being of all of the space's users, the project is an example of HLM's commitment to thoughtful design and making places better for people. HLM's design for Addington offers a natural and calming link between what has been experienced by the pupils and what is new. It includes 3 education rooms, an enhanced teaching space for profound and multiple learning disabilities, a dining and multi-use entertainment hall, and an independent life skills hub, all of which have been constructed off-site at REDS 10.
So the process for building an off-site modular building is that we construct the building in individual units within a controlled environment within our factory. We do all the fit-out works here as far as possible, and then the building is then separated and transported to site and installed there.
The government's mandated the use of off-site for an awful lot of their projects. That's education, healthcare, prisons and housing. It's a significantly faster process because a lot of the processes are taken off-site. They're taken into the factory environment. For example, we can work on multiple levels of the building at the same time. Site programs are reduced and the disruption to the existing school or the local environment or the local community is significantly reduced. It's a safer process. We're working on a factory environment where the floor is good, where it's clean, we're protected from the weather. Sustainability, we've got much better control of our materials here in the factory. We can recycle, we've got better waste disposal, we can segregate waste, and quality. The quality control processes are much easier to achieve in a factory, and it's much easier to get a good quality product and a consistent product as well.
We are very, very proud of Addington. After the work is finished, we can accept another 50 children, which means that we will have 250 children who will receive an outstanding education within the borough.
That's still the end of the video. There's been an updated one of that, actually. It's one that we produced for the in-between, but there's a much needed one. If you want to check it out on the website of both HLM or REDS 10, that'd be fantastic. Thank you very much. I think that's the end of our presentation. We'll do the Q&As at the end. If I hand over now.
Thank you, Russell, and thank you, Brian. That's a lovely looking building and some really great spaces in there. If anybody's got any questions, please put them up. We'll deal with those at the end once we've had the second presentation. So I'd now like to introduce you to Brian Pester, who's a director at Modulec. And Brian's going to be talking about 4 of their projects in SEND schools, which has benefited from a modular approach. So thank you, Brian. Over to you.
Thank you, Mark. That's really good. Really enjoyed listening to that, Russell, as well. It was a really good presentation. Yeah, so I don't really think there's a huge amount to add. What we do is very, very similar. We offer a full turnkey package right from concept through to completion. We do a full internal design and all the engineering ourselves, and then you've got the factory construction, the site installs and so on. One thing I'd like to say is that our main focus at the moment is on hybrid buildings. We're finding more and more that there is still a very strong desire for certain elements and advantages that the traditional methods of construction can bring as well. And we're working with clients to actually combine some of these using our years of experience in construction. So our background is construction. We've been doing building schools and commercial buildings since the early 70s. So we bring a huge wealth of experience there. We moved into the modular form of construction in the late 90s. So as you can understand, we've been in this game for a long time, and we know the pitfalls and we know what can be done. And we're pushing the boundaries all the time. I'd just like to show you a video of a project recently completed. This is an SEN school, just to show you how the project comes together on site, because I think that's the area that particularly wows and interests clients, is the bit that affects them. It's when it actually happens through to completion. So I'll just share this with you now. Just see if I can get this to connect up. Tyler, can everybody see that okay?
Looks good, Brian. Have you selected the audio?
Right, how do I do that? Sorry, I'm not very familiar with this sort of thing, I'm afraid.
No problem. So if you just cancel that screen share, and then you'll get the option to share your audio.
Yeah, fine. Okay. So whereabouts do we do that? I've got share the content.
Yep, so if you click share and then select share computer audio, and then share your video.
Right, it's not actually coming up with an option to share the computer audio. Is that because I've got headphones in?
It should work for you, Brian. So if you share your desktop, is that where you're going to be sharing it from?
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So, right, okay. Yeah, the volume, okay. If I start it now, tell me if you can hear it.
Sure. No.
No, sorry.
No sound on there, Brian.
Okay, how do we do that then?
Okay. Mark, I think we have a question for Michael and Russell. If Brian and I try and get the sound set up in the background, are you happy to chat through that question?
Yes, let's
yeah, happy to take any questions.
have a look at that. Michael, I saw
get the volume to share on this.
I saw, Michael, you answered the question in the chat, but somebody picked up on something which was interesting in the design of the building you were sharing there, that the entrance canopy, which wasn't a typical modular rectangle as it appeared in the pictures in the film we saw, was that built off site? And you've answered that in text, but if you wouldn't mind sharing that, then that would be interesting to know a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so the canopy, if maybe we'll show the pictures in a while, but it actually ties into the building. So we, through the design process early on, we knew we wanted a big entrance canopy. So we came up with the structural engineers of a way of how we could cantilever it off the building. So we designed the structural steel frame with this in mind. And essentially what we did was we installed these fish plates along the building edge, which wrapped around the curved hall as well. And basically what it meant was when we came to install the canopy on site, we'd already, we'd done all that pre-work. So it was a case of just coming in and bolting it in against the building and then just having the columns on the outside. So you lose a number of columns and it's a much cleaner finish. Also, we're able to sort of get a wraparound curve to it as well, which is it's not something you typically get with modular. And obviously we've got the double height hall is curved as well.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think when people think about the term modular, they often think about kind of quite constrained shapes. And what you've clearly got there is a great solution with the building with a variety of different shapes and spaces. So thank you for that. I think we're okay now to go back to Brian. So Brian, if you want to pick up where you left off, and then we'll come back to Q&As again at the end.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, I think I've got it sorted now. Finally. Yeah, so this is a video of an SEN school that we did. Just like to share this with you.
Well, there are many things that I feel that have impressed us about the Modulec experience. Working with so many professionals, having clear communication, being involved in the design process from the off has made such a massive impact in the outcome of the building. When you think about the specifics that Modulec have included into the design, it really has opened up so much for our young people. The accessibility directly out onto the playground is something that our young people, especially in my class, have never really have access to. So the accessibility, the linking up with their peers, the working collaboratively, it has just opened up so many quite literal doors to our young people. Also, it's removed so many barriers to their learning. So having the freedom and the independence to be able to move through the building has just meant that the lifelong learning can happen from now to when they leave, and they will grow with the building.
I felt it was a good one to share there, Mark, particularly with the client input. It's always how it's perceived by the client that it's a critical thing. And just the story that tells, the engagement with the client early on, as Red 10 said as well, which is so critical. And I'd say that to any client considering a project like this, you need to be engaging very, very early with the modular contractor to get a full service, but to get the full benefit of what can be achieved through modular construction. I'd like to share another video with you as well, which demonstrates very powerfully the hybrid, the mix of traditional and modular construction. This is something that we feel often is very off-putting for clients. As Mark was saying just now, you can feel very restricted by modular construction, but that's not actually necessary. It's incredibly flexible what you can do. Really, you can do anything. It's clever design, use of different systems. There's no limits. Generally speaking, the only limits really are outside factors like planning, and then budget clearly is something that has to be considered as well. So I'd just like to share this one as well with you.
Brian, have you screen shared?
Oh, right, sorry. Hang on. I thought I had, but no, I haven't. You're right.
I'm seeing light flickering on you, but not what you're actually showing, I think.
Yeah, that's fine, Mark. Just coming up. Do you see that now, Mark?
Yeah, we can see that. I'm afraid we don't have any sound.
Hang on, I'll just redo that one. I forgot to click that sound button again.
They were small and you didn't have much space to sit down.
It was really crowded and there wasn't enough space to move around.
Classrooms are very small and the whiteboards broke down lots of times.
In the old huts, we had to wear our coats when it was raining to get to assembly, which we normally wouldn't have to do.
We got very good exercise running back and forth from school to our other classrooms.
We kept running out of water because we didn't have any sinks. I remember once when it was raining, we couldn't go to the hall to get our lunch, so we had to eat in our classroom.
To temporary classrooms were put in, Mr. Colwick said that we were going to be moved into a shed.
Assemblies are better in our new hall as we can hear Mr. Gower speak clearly. We are in our new building. We have much more space to do our PE.
I was served a lot quicker in the hall because there's 2 lines now to get your food.
Mug is really cool because football's a lot more funner, and at PE we have a lot more room to run around.
We have sinks, it's easier to have a drink. I like the new whiteboards because they work much more better now. I like the whiteboards because they're magnetic. We used to put our lunch boxes on the floor, but now we have a box to put our lunch boxes in. The thing I like about the new building is the new hall because we can fit the whole school in it. Exhaust room because you can store all your stuff in there. A kitchen because you have more people to serve you. My favourite room in the new building is the French room because if we did it in the classroom we had to move all the stuff around before home time, but in the new French room we don't. The new classrooms because they're much more bigger. The cranes because they entertain me a lot.
The builders putting the tarmac down.
Like when the old building got knocked down.
I love that the builders every day would carve a new smiley face on a piece of plastic.
I remember having to move into one of the sheds for a while.
Kingsley Primary School, where everyone can be great, not just good.
Thank you, Mark. That really tells a story in itself. I haven't really got anything to add to that. Just be available for any questions or anything anybody wants to field.
Great. Thank you, Brian.
Sorry about the technical issues.
These things are sent. I've got a technical issue now because I've gone green. So apologies for that. But thank you all for those presentations. I think raised some very interesting points and showed some great solutions. So if anybody has any questions, please drop them in. I've got a couple, I suppose, to get us going. So one thing, obviously, we're in the inclusive learning environment show this week. What do you think are the biggest benefits of a modern method of construction, such as these, specifically in inclusive learning spaces? Who'd like to have a go at answering that for a start?
Oh, a tricky one. I see no one else has put a hand up. I think it's vital and in all geared up really. I think MMC to allow safer sites really, the site setup can be done, and then you exactly know when all your construction movements are going to happen really, and you can keep them separate quite easily, and the build goes on quite short periods. You know, I think in Addington it was done over 2 weeks, you know, the crane into these units. So it's fantastic. And then I think Michael's going to chime in, but obviously they.
Yeah, no, I was going to add to that as well, Russell. Similar lines. With traditional modular construction, you know, you can get the same output, so to speak, you know, the same quality of finish. I think the key benefits with the off-site element is, you know, it's the reduced time on site, the reduced construction traffic in and out of site. It just makes it a lot safer and better environment through the build process for a school, especially our live school. So I think that's the key benefits. You know, we believe there's others in terms of cost as well, and you know, the early engagement bit that we talked about in our presentation. But ultimately, I think, you know, what we've touched on there are the key elements and the key benefits.
Yeah. Okay. So Brian, one for you, perhaps. What resistance do you tend to find from customers when considering a modern method of construction?
The unknown, really. The
unknown.
What do you reckon, Mark? You're pretty experienced in it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the unknown is a good answer. I think there's also this expectation and perception of buildings being very limited in their design and what they can do. And I think we've seen that just isn't the case. But sometimes it can be difficult to overcome that, I think.
Yeah, that's something I've encountered. You know, there's this perception around modular and you're just going to get a square box. And people have got in their heads that these old porta cabins that they got taught in the 70s or 80s, and you know, they think it's going to be like site accommodation. I think we're sort of smashing that out of the water with the buildings we're doing. You know, we're pushing the boundaries of what's achievable with modular. As you can see from Addington, you've got a double height curved hall, you've got the wraparound canopy, you've got the feature windows, you've got the roof lights. You know, that's not your standard. You know, if you got people to describe modular, I don't think they'd expect those design features to be able to build in. But I think with what we're doing, and certainly on Addington, you look at the photos, this is what we're proving is possible. If you get the early engagement, you know, if you're designing with modular in mind from stage one, you know, it's achievable.
Yeah, great. And Russell, perhaps just building on that one for you, what do you think what are you most excited about with regards to the future of these modern methods? Where do you think they can take us?
Oh, that's a good question. Where do you think it's going to go? Well, we in Red 10 are doing quite a lot of projects, and one of the things I do like is our learning process. So we do refine every single stage. We look at the details and look at how to get it better. But I think it's quite endless, really, what we can do and what we can come up with. Obviously, the only sort of restrictions is obviously the delivery size. That's what we only sort of go within. I think anything else is up for grabs, really, and that's the sort of thing we're the most looking forward to is the, you know, designing in that overall constraint, which isn't really a constraint. It's just a safety element to get it to site. So I think it's endless, really. I know that's a bit of an open-ended answer, but some of the stuff we're doing is fantastic. You know, we can get quite a lot in the design, and we detail in it fantastically, and it's being built. You know, and we go and see it, and it's been delivered on budget, on time. We're always under time at the moment. Always delivering it, always quicker.
Yeah, one of the things for me, Russell, I'll just add to that is our progression towards net zero buildings. Now, on Addington, this was when we started our stage one. We're not quite at net zero, but we're delivering a number of MMC framework projects on the new MMC framework with the DFE with HLM, and our first one coming up, Abbey Farm, is going to be a net zero building, and at no additional cost. We're separately on the MOD estate. We're delivering a series of net zero buildings, and we've taken the learnings from that around air source heat pumps and PVs, and the new buildings we are going to be delivering now are going to be net zero. These like 2FE primary schools, we're cutting out, there's no gas, there's just electric and water. So I feel like we're at the front of the curve and we're doing something exciting there. Another thing we're looking at is the embodied carbon size. We're developing a tool just now, which is a carbon calculator. So you feed in the various types of material types, whether that be a Seadrill panel or wood clad finish or a concrete floor or a Giffer board floor or a timber floor, and seeing what the embodied carbon of that is. So you can, the tools, you know, it's coming on, and there are other ones out there, but we're looking at something where we can feed in all the various material types, and it'll tell us what our sort of embodied carbon output is in terms of tons of carbon. So that's one thing we're looking at on the embodied side, and obviously the net zero thing and delivering, you know, net zero or negative carbon buildings.
Yeah. Brian, what about you? What's exciting you about the future of MMC?
Well, I would say that the way the industry is going, the way that the whole perception amongst the public, just the general public, is changing. That, I would say, is, for me, is the most exciting thing. For us, there's never been any restrictions on what we can do with modular construction. We've been doing it for years. The biggest roadblock always has been the public perception of the type of construction, and we're just seeing that massively changing. I mean, you must be as well, Mark.
Yes, yeah, I think we're seeing, you know, in general in the industry, there's a big shift in that perception. I think picking up also on the net zero point that Michael's making, I think we're seeing that people are increasingly understanding that these modern methods are, you know, better not only in operation but in lifetime, and that's a good reason for people to reassess and fall in love with them, I think. We do. There's one question we've got in about cost, which is always an interesting one. So specifically asking about the cost per square metre of the Reds 10 building that we saw there. I mean, can we just give an idea about costs and how costs compare within your systems compared to a traditional build system, just to give a rough idea for the audience?
Yeah, well, I don't mind sharing that information because I did the cost management on the scheme. So that Addington project there came out at around £3,000 a metre squared, but that's inclusive of all professional fees, the delivery of the works, everything, all the project costs. That may sound high, but you need to remember it's an SEN building. If you look at the specialist spaces that we delivered, we've got 2 hygiene rooms that have got all fully mechanical hoist toilets, adjustable sinks. Then we've got a PMLD room that's got a sensory play area, and it's got a full-length mechanical hoist service in the room. We've got all the life skills spaces. You saw there was a kitchen, the hairdressing and the cleaning stations, food tech, a cafe, and the hall with all the AV equipment as well. So although that may seem like a high rate, but you know, you've got to look at the specialist spaces that we've delivered within that building, specifically around the school's needs. So there's, you know, that's probably easily added sort of somewhere between 15 and 20% to sort of a typical cost of a building of that standard.
Yeah, great, thanks. Brian, what about the Modulec system? What would be a figures for people to have in mind for that?
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not able to share that information. We do have very strict policies on that. However, you know, if any of the audience want to contact me following the meeting to discuss, be more than happy. It does vary hugely from client to client and according to the requirements.
Yeah, I think in general we find when we're talking to customers about buildings at a very early stage, you can have a rough idea based on the size of the building, but everything, I think a message from all of us here, that every design is bespoke, so every building will be costed differently and in its own unique way. But what we can definitely say is that the modular approach can produce, you know, great quality, healthy buildings that are good for well-being at a significantly lower cost than traditional building methods. So what do you think are the biggest challenges, just to finish off now, what do you think are the biggest challenges for MMC going forward? What do you think as an industry we will need to be facing in the future?
I think the biggest barrier to it is the tier 1 contractors won't embrace it. They're stuck in their ways. They've got a model that works for them. They're like management companies, and they don't want to. They treat modular companies like subcontractors, and as long as they do that, it'll never work. They need to fully integrate their own manufacturing capability, like we have. We're vertically integrated. We employ our own people. The old sort of contracting model is, they don't employ anyone on site. They've just got their management team there. Everything's subcontracted out. Now, until that changes with the tier 1s, it's never going to be fully embraced by everyone. We're doing it, and we're trying to break the mold there, and we think what we're doing is the right way to go. And there's the government's construction playbook has come out, and it talks about the approach is pretty much what we're doing. But the tier 1s, they talk about it, but they're not embracing it yet. And until they do, MMC will sort of trundle along like it is now. Obviously, there's the government initiatives, and it'll grow, but it won't take off fully until the tier 1s embrace it.
Yeah. Brian, Russell, anything to add?
For the future, yeah, I mean, to echo that sort of sentiment that Michael was saying, just the sort of, I think it works with us and how we're collaborative and how we work across sort of businesses, and it's all quite transparent and seamless, and the way the digital tools have helped us, we can sort of achieve everything, and we have direct line to the factory from an architect. Obviously we talk all the time. So that's good that we can see that, and we've got a real good sort of sense of design and everything like that. So for us, yeah, it's an exciting time.
Thanks. Brian, what are the challenges that you think, the biggest challenges that we're facing as an industry from your perspective?
I would say a really quite a major one is meeting demand. So as the government are really pushing modular construction, and as the public appetite for it grows, there's going to need to be a shift of resources in the construction industry towards modular construction. But what do you reckon, Mark?
That's one of those challenges that I think we'd all like to face. Yeah, I think certainly. I think we would probably all agree. I think there's an exciting future for these, for modular systems of various different sorts, and what they can achieve in terms of speed, cost, and ultimately the way the buildings perform. I think that's the message that we need to be giving is, the most important thing here really is how the buildings perform when they're in use, and how the users really enjoy these types of buildings. So I think there's some great times ahead, and yeah, hopefully if demand does go through the roof, then that will be good for the whole sector. So I think we're pretty much up to time. No more questions in the chat. So I'd like to thank you all for coming, Russell, Michael, and Brian. That's been really interesting. And if anybody's got any further questions to add, then contact details are available in the site. So don't hesitate to email any of us with any questions you may have. And thank you for attending, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the week.
Thank you, Mark, and Michael and Russell too. It's been good.
Yeah, thanks you.
Take care all.
So cheers everyone. Bye.